We have all heard about the longest reigning British monarch, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. The 94-year-old became a queen at a young age of 25 after her father died. After long years of ruling the United Kingdom, we've all wondered, what will happen after her death? So, without further ado, here are the things that'll happen once Queen Elizabeth II dies. Let's get started. London Bridge. Just like with any royalty, even the death of the Queen is planned into details. Although it's hard to imagine a world without the Queen, the thing is, no one can beat death.
Hello. Are you well?
Thank you very much. I'm still alive. Anyway.
Nice to see you again.
So when the day comes, there are extremely careful plans made already to make sure that the entire situation is handled gracefully and respectfully, just like the Queen would have wanted. This entire plan, or let's call it operation, is called London Bridge and will take action immediately after her death. The entire operation is already planned out to each and every detail and contains all the details of the days and weeks following the Queen's death. Not only will this operation take place, code names will also be used to spread the tragic news of the Queen's death. Her private secretary has the obligation to spread the news once she hears it from the doctor to the acting prime minister at the time. That message will say, "London Bridge is down." With this line, they will be aware of what has happened, and from that point on, Britain's Foreign Office will call the 15 governments where the Queen is head of state and the 36 nations of the Commonwealth to spread the tragic news. At that same moment, the operation we mentioned already will take place, and within minutes, the gates of Buckingham Palace will be covered in black, as the entire palace will go dark. The staff members in the palace will be notified shortly, and most of them will even be sent home. The announcement. Once all of that is done, and almost everyone important is notified of the Queen's death, then everyone else around the United Kingdom and the world will be notified. The press already knows how they will release the news about the Queen's death, and all of the press outlets will be informed at once. Not only will the news be received like this, but also the royal family official website will share the announcement on its homepage. Every media outlet and radio station will share the announcement once it reaches them, and every announcement has to fall precisely as they have expected. The radio and media outlets have a special light that will flash in blue, meaning they'd have to cut to news as soon as possible and stop whatever they are broadcasting. Also, some major TV channels such as the BBC will completely stop their program and broadcast the announcement. They will completely stop any TV shows and stop from showing laughter on their channels up until her funeral is done. All of the people that work at the TV channels or any other media outlets will have to wear black suits and clothing at all times in the studio. The traditional red BBC News logo will be changed to black due to the Queen's death. They will continue to broadcast all about the events of her death and everything revolving around it, up until her funeral at least. Then the royal family will make an announcement publicly to the news stations and reporters live in front of Buckingham Palace. 12 days. After all of the Queen's family and close important people, as well as the media stations and outlets have heard the tragic news, the bell in London will toll as an ongoing tradition. Flags will also be lowered to half-mast, and the process of the 12 days will begin. On the very day of her death, her oldest son, Charles, will immediately become king, and the next day, he will make his official speech as king. In these 12 days, the Queen's body will be held for 10 days at the palace so the family can spend time together. In those days, it is expected that many banks and stock markets may close as a sign of mourning for the Queen. Smaller things might as well be put on pause, and almost the entire United Kingdom will have these days put on pause so they can further mourn her death. The BBC also confirmed that it will stop broadcasting any comedy television shows as a form of respect for these tragic times. They also did this when King George VI passed away in 1952, and will do the same for their Queen. 4 days after her death, her coffin will be led on a military procession from Buckingham Palace to Westminster Hall. Here she will lay for another 4 days until all of her children, grandchildren, and other relatives pay their respects. The entire funeral will take up to 12 days, where on the 12th day, they will finally bury her. The funeral. As the people are counting down the days leading up to her funeral, they will start to gather in front of Buckingham Palace, where they will be able to lay flowers and pay their respects to their queen. The 10 days before her funeral, people will be free to mourn her death in front of the palace at any time. On the 10th day, her body will be moved from Westminster Hall to Westminster Abbey for a state funeral. At the funeral, state officials from all around the world will come to pay their respects and will be coordinated by the armed forces and government. At the day of her funeral, the entire country will be given a national day of mourning, which will later on be announced as a national holiday. It is estimated that 500,000 people are expected to show up for her funeral, and twice that will be watching the funeral at home on TV. Although the funeral will be broadcasted on a few channels, they will try not to show the grieving faces of the royal family on TV. The coffin will be placed on a gun carriage and pulled by Royal Navy sailors. At 9 a.m., Big Ben's bell will ring once, then the bell will be covered in leather so that the tones from the bell can be dampened for the rest of the day. After the funeral proper, it is said that her body will be taken to Windsor Castle, where she will be buried and most likely join her parents and her sister in the King George VI Memorial Chapel. King Charles III. On the day of the Queen's death, Charles, her oldest son, is set to make a speech to address the people, and the next day he would already be king. Even though he will automatically become king the same day as her death, an Ascension Council will be held to formally declare Prince Charles as the King of the United Kingdom. The coronation, however, will not be held for months, so they can allow the royal family some time to properly mourn over her death, and also give them time to properly prepare for the ceremony. The palace already has an elaborate plan about how everything will go down once all of this happens. When Charles will be declared king, he will have the right to pick his own name. However, many have suggested that it will still be King Charles III. If you didn't know by now, the British monarchs are allowed to change their names once they take the throne. Both Queen Elizabeth and her father, King George, have changed their names once they become king and queen respectively. But we all assume that Charles might end up keeping his given name. Also, many have wondered about Charles' wife Camilla and what her title would be, and she would potentially be named Queen Camilla. The change of money and national anthem. The Queen's death is estimated to cost the UK economy billions of pounds, and in addition to that, there will be hundreds of changes waiting to happen. In the months after her death, the United Kingdom will undergo a lot of changes, such as having a new British currency with the King's portrait on it. But what will happen to the old currency with the Queen's portrait? Well, it'll still have value, but it will slowly be removed from use. The same thing will happen with the stamps and passports in the country. Not only will that change, but also the military uniforms will be changed as well. The current anthem of the country will also be changed. Well, only the lyrics will be changed from God Save the Queen to God Save the King. Although it's not a huge change, it'll definitely take a long time for people to get used to it. Not only will we have a new king as the ruler of the United Kingdom, but also we will have a different anthem and a different looking money at our hands. And not to mention how the Commonwealth will react to the new king. This could totally alter the royal family forever. This could lead to a lot of countries to follow the new king, but it might cause some to rebel against it, and this could weaken the British monarchy. Even though this day eventually will be upon us and it'll be the end of an era, we'd like to think that it will be a long time before it happens, given that Queen Elizabeth's mother lived up to 101 years. On a related note, we wanted to know, what do you guys think will happen when Queen Elizabeth II dies? Let us know in the comments section below. If you'd like to see more amazing videos such as this one, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss any of them. And as always, thanks for watching, guys.